We are 66 times.
Hello again, welcome to 66 Times. My name's Peter Gurry and this is the 66 Times podcast. And you are now listening to Season 1, Revenue in Crisis, and this is Episode 3, The Hungry Beast and How to Tame It. In Episode 2, we look closely at a global financial crisis case study where a crisis was averted, albeit not overly easily, with a degree of pain, with a degree of operational challenge. In this episode, Episode 3, we're to look at the Hungry Beast, and by that I mean the scale of the business, the scale of demand, the scale of expectation, and what it is to really action, what it is to enable our capabilities. As discussed in 2, we know we're smart, but how can we be efficient? How can we leverage this efficiency for competitive advantage? Our present operational challenges aren't as they were in 2008. The Hungry Beast that we've been referring to speaks of the scale that we've created in order to, attempt to operationalise our larger, more connected data systems and our greater scaled teams in order to deal with that. However, what really is going on here? So what is different? What have we learnt? Well, the tools are more complex these days. We've invested a hell of a lot in some very snazzy MarTech platforms. What else? The data connectivity, it's better along. We've invested very heavily in the last 10 years in bringing transactional, customer profile, you name it, together into a more single, accessible view of the customer. So, that's a big win. The need to drive rapid revenue is still there. And when you look at e-commerce, we're better equipped there by far. However, few have been able to turn these at present into any real strategic advantage, namely because of the operational and skills requirements within the business has not yet caught up with the capability. But I'll tell you the one real massive difference from then to now. Teams have grown in size and new roles and new capabilities exist within businesses now that weren't present then. In essence, we are bigger. I'm referring obviously to the scale of those who deal with data, who deal with the communications using that data, and are in charge of managing and governing the quality of that data. We have built some very hungry beasts. And when things get sketchy and a crisis of whatever sort presents itself, the scale of these hungry beasts become difficult to manage, to say the least. While you can always downsize, the cost of rebuilding is cost prohibitive. Therefore, any sort of downsizing is a last-ditched effort. So while better equipped, businesses are now more fragile than ever before. The ability to drive revenue in times of crisis is more important now than ever. This is where strategic advantage is captured. This is a new battlefront. This is how we are different now. Competitive timeliness, acquisition, and growth cost efficiency are now critical, not just competitive advantages, but actually critical for businesses. The new battlefront is one of operational delivery. Let's look at what this really means for the present. Coming out of the other side of COVID-19, my personal opinion is that business will be same, but different. Emotionally, the vast impact on our lives is leading people to think that there's going to be an incredibly different world awaiting us. apart from remote working, apart from a period of time where we need to make up for lost opportunities, businesses and people don't like changing. So it will be same, but different. Now, believe it or not, it's not all about remote working. Remote working brings with it a great deal of governance issues. Data quality, privacy quality, etc. are very big concerns for the remote office and the remote worker. So we cannot rely on all modifications to models to be those of a remote working nature. This is where direct response marketing and conversion rate optimization become powerful. Where were we at the GFC? Well, we were fledglings, we were wannabes. We are at a point now where we can make these happen, and it's strategically imperative that we do this operationally. This is where the 66 times 4 Ps come in. Remember from the intro, people, the processes they use, the programs of work the business and the people are wrapped in order to evolve, and then ultimately the platforms and systems that power them. So taming the hungry beast isn't exactly an easy task. It requires a KPI'd and highly focused framework, a program of work which is as considered as any in-market activity, taking into account KPIs and measures which govern some of the most critical success factors. Those success factors are 1. Continuity cost, which is the cost of inefficient planning. Humans have a disgusting ability to forget what has gone before them, only to reinvent something at great cost and loss of opportunity. We only need to look back to the fact that the ancient Egyptians had batteries and the ancient Romans had glass, only to be forgotten in the Middle Ages. We repeatedly forget and repeatedly reinvent unnecessarily. Number 2 is the continual improvement cycle. The cycle in itself, how long it takes from one iteration to the next. Yet surely it is one of the largest factors that keeps competitive advantage alive. The ability to evolve quickly relies on the ability to evolve efficiently. And this logically morphs into point number 3, which is test traction, because with improvement comes testing. You can't improve if you're not working off the back of something proven. So test traction is the most critical aspect that is often excluded or entirely misunderstood. And then finally, point number 4, which is commercially critical. The cost versus quality of what has been produced and how the business acts on it. So these very fundamental operational needs are what is required to tame this beast, this metaphorical beast that has been created. At scale, may I add. With those success factors described, which can also be considered measurement or KPI factors, it brings us to the end of another episode and readies us for the next, where we explore exactly how this is put into action. So make sure to join me on episode 4, where we unlock the most important of the 4 Ps.